And through the drifts the snowy cliffs did send a dismal sheen, nor shapes of men nor beasts we ken, the ice was all between.
Stratters, let's talk about the original 25 artists of Alpha. The original 25 artists of Magic the Gathering. Not only did they illustrate the Alpha cards, one of them also designed the borders of the Alpha cards, the original borders, designs, and colors for Magic the Gathering. Uh, One of them's dead, Christopher Rush, illustrator of Lightning Bolt, rest in peace. I became interested in the artists ever since I could read. Uh, I noticed a pattern of some of the artists. You could read them on the bottom of every single card, Magic the Gathering, all the way back, including Alpha. You can read the artists, and you can appreciate the Magic the Gathering cards. Alpha was a special time before there were computers. Back then, computers cost around $2,000. That's 1990s money. A lot of them were 33 megahertz to 133 megahertz back in the megahertz wars, which ended about around when I graduated high school. So computers were just really expensive. Artists did not draw with computers. They drew the very old-fashioned way of uh, pencil and paper. And it's really interesting seeing how Magic the Gathering evolved from a pre-internet days to a post-internet days, from a pre-computer days to a post-internet days, when net decks started popping up in the days of internet and proto-internet. Anyway, some of you might have noticed in previous videos, I do have a painting behind my head, so I brought it here for you. It's Jeff Menges. I got it from Gen Con 2007. Says to Mike, go plow at the bottom of it. Mingus was one of the 25 original artists. I asked him, where's Scavenging Ghoul? Because it wasn't in his cards that he brought that you could sign. And he says that Gen Con just didn't allow him to bring every single card that you've ever made. Which tells you like the vast number of cards that the original 25 artists made. Some of them made careers out of it. Some of them were just very specialist kind of artists. So let's go through them all. It's a lot of time. It's Sunday. I'm kind of bored. So it's important to look at these artists because, say for Phil Foglio, I really love his art. I love his Beebles. I love his Unglued Unhinged cards. Rebecca Guay has signed one of her cards. Rebecca, you're not messing with me, Guay, as one of the cards, instead of just writing Rebecca Guay at the bottom of the card, because you can't name her as an artist. I think one of them was Sentinel Druid I had signed from Antiquities, and the artist was really proud of it. It's like one of the best work he's ever done. But so few people actually own Antiquities cards, it's just very hard to appreciate these cards. Thankfully, we have Scryfall, which can show images of every single card, so let's just go through every single Magic the Gathering card. Let's go through them all alphabetically. There's 25 of them. I'll try to be quick about it. It's going to be a long video. Rob Alexander, first alphabetical. He did Badlands. It's a wonderful card. I like how lands display what's in the land in the picture. The newer Nicol Bolas Islands, it looks like there's a river next to land. It doesn't look like there's an island in the island picture. Here you can see there's actually Badlands in the Badlands. Might be getting too technical, but that's just how I like my lands. Lance was a terrible card. When I first saw Lance, I've never played with the card. Target creature gains first strike. It was in my binder for a long time. I like the water effects. Savannah. Yeah. Man. Taiga. I had about 8 Savannahs and maybe 5 or 6 Taigas. Really powerful cards. It's easy to remember artists when they make powerful cards. It's harder to remember them when they make weaker cards like lands. Underground Sea. Yeah. Web. There's better cards in Web now. There were better cards in Web printed like a year or two after Web. They gave +0/+3 for 1 green mana. That's Rob. Next is Julie Barreau. If I'm butchering the names and you know the correct pronunciation of the name, you can just say in the comments. Especially if you're the actual artist who made the cards and are watching this video, just say so in the comments. Julie Barreau did Blessing, Clone, Magical Hack, and Mind Twist. Blessing was a rare. I've played with Blessing. I've never had Blessing played against me. Clone, excellent rare. You should see it in blue-white control decks more often. Just clone cards. If it clones anything that's forecasting cost or greater, it's mana advantage. Magical Hack. I've made Magical Hack decks with Karma. Deals damage to your opponent equals the number of swamps he has. Every single of his upkeeps or your upkeeps. You can just replace the swamp with like plains and really mess with your opponent and just kill him quickly that way. Mind Twist is one of the most powerful cards in Magic the Gathering, banned for about 9 years. It's sitting in my binders almost to the point where I was thinking about throwing them away because they were banned for so many years. I don't think I did ever play with my Mind Twists. Melissa Benson. Try to spend maybe 1 or 2 minutes for each artist. Try to avoid making this like an hour plus video. Also appeared as Melissa A. Benson. You see Melissa A. Benson here in About Face, and Melissa Benson here in Wrathy Berserker. Same artist. Did Fire Elemental. Fire Elemental's so hot. Probably shouldn't be said like a picture the young boy should see. They won't print cards like this anymore. Kind of wish they did. Gets my fire going, if you know what I mean. Holy Armor. I've played Holy Armor back when all of I had was revised. There's better cards now. Lord of Atlantis. Lord of Atlantis was such a powerful card. And as time goes by, Merfolk, if they printed a new Merfolk card, it could either be better or worse than the previous Merfolk cards. So as the years pass, it just only got better. Misa Pegasus. Love the art, Misa Pegasus. They won't print Banning anymore. Nightmare. I don't see players designing decks with cards like Nightmare in mind. People forget that this is a 6/6 flying for 6, and that's pretty good. Sometimes it's a 7. Actually, attacks for is a 7/7 for 6, which is better. And it can be 9/9 and 10/10 sometimes, which makes it on par with today's cards. It's rare. Bulk rare these days. Shivan Dragon. The Charizard of Magic the Gathering. I played this in my first deck along with Personal Incarnation. I'll get to that later. There's Dragon Collectors in Magic the Gathering. I've met a Dragon Collector who wants one of every single Dragon card in Magic the Gathering. Shivan Dragon's one of them. Timberwolves, a rare. I think because banning shouldn't be in Magic the Gathering, especially in green. I've tried Timberwolves and the green one deck. The green one archetype is you force every single card in your green deck to cost exactly 1 green mana. And you try to overwhelm your opponent by turn 3. This card was good enough in the original green one. It's not anymore. Next up is Kev Brockschmidt. Then I'll just take a break to grab a soda. Dwarven Demolition Team, Kellen Warlord, Personal Incarnation, Veteran Enchantress. Let's look at the correct version of it. That is not the one I used. I used... Is this the Dwarven Demolition Team I've used? I'm impressed. This is not actually the picture I expected to be. Tap to destroy a wall. It looked good back when there was Wall of Ice. One of the top 10 cards in my top 10 list. Killing Warlord I played. It's fine in Goblin decks. I think people pay too much attention to putting as many goblins as they can in goblin decks and forget that there's cards like Killing Warlord that you can just shove like a one of in and it boosts the archetype. Personal Incarnation, I played it in a tournament, got to round 2 in single elimination, got a pack from the store owner for making it to round 2, met another person the next week in a Friday Night Magic tournament saying, you beat someone last week? And I said, yeah. He said, that was my brother. Got beaten by a freaking, 8-year-old, 7-year-old in Magic the Gathering. That was pretty funny. Personal Incarnation isn't that good. Verdant Enchantress, the original card for the Enchantress deck. It was so powerful. They made it even stronger now. This could draw you an entire hand of cards, and with cards like Rancor, you can just keep losing creatures and bouncing Rancor back in your hand and keep drawing more and more cards. Alright, back with a nice new orange vanilla Coca-Cola. I got this card confused. I played Goblin Digging Team, not Dwarven Demolition Team. I've never played Dwarven Demolition Team before. Goblin Digging Team was nice for like a month when most of the cards in Magic the Gathering were Wall of Ice or Wall of Stone. There's fewer walls now. So let's move on before this video becomes like an hour plus. Next up we have Cornelius Broody. Made a Pearled Unicorn and Wanderlust. See, some of these people didn't have much of a career in Magic the Gathering. Just made a couple of cards and then left. Very, very specialist artists. Some of these stayed with Magic the Gathering for their entire lives. In the case of Christopher Rush, for the entire life of Magic the Gathering that they could. Pearled Unicorn, 2/2 common. Magic the Gathering expected players to have less than 4 of any one uncommon. They wanted players to buy a starter deck to start with and then boost their starter deck with booster packs. So you'd buy a starter deck and you'd buy 3 or 4 packs. You wouldn't come up with 4 White Knights, so you'd have to make up with the White Knights with Pearled Unicorns. Magic players didn't behave that way. As the game originally designed you to play with at least 1 copy of Pearled Unicorn. Players ended up buying an entire box. That's not how Magic the Gathering was meant to be played, as Richard Garfield intended, and why cards like Pearled Unicorn exist. Now it's kind of like a joke of one of the worst creatures ever made. Nice art. Wanderlust. I've died to Wanderlust. No joke. Sandra Everingham is next. Circle Protection Green, Dark Ritual, Deathface, Drudge Skeletons, Evil Presence, Giant Growth, Giant Spider, Lay Druid, Pure Lace, Raging River, Sinkhole, and the Hive. Well, let's go through them all. Circle Protection Green. COPs are great. COP Green and Blue are not so great. Dark Ritual. Black was not supposed to add mana like Dark Ritual would. They eventually phased it out and gave Red the power to do rituals. And then one of Red's rituals became too powerful and it got banned. A very powerful card. Deathlace. I used to give out Deathlaces for rare tournaments. You would pick 1 rare and add it to the pile. And you'd have, 8 to 12 players show up at the tournament with 1 rare. And then first place got, first pick. And then last place, you got one of my laces. I think I've said it before. Drudge Skeletons. Regeneration's so powerful. Players eventually understood regenerate to mean always leave a green open, so it kind of made a Drudge Skeletons type cards have at the beginning of your upkeep play pay black sort of behavior with these cards. Players do not know regeneration was supposed to be that powerful. I've tapped out with regenerative creatures in play. The first couple of years of Magic the Gathering, it was until like Troll Ascetic, where it had hexproof regeneration, did players realize how truly powerful the combination could be, being able to tap out with regeneration, and later ends up being not a mistake with Troll Ascetic. Evil Presence. There were Swamp Hulk creatures like Bog Wraith out, which made Evil Presence at least playable. I know it looks really terrible now. Giant Growth. Such a good card. I've argued whether Giant Growth is more powerful or Lightning Bolt's more powerful. Giant Growth, if your opponent doesn't block it, is a Lightning Bolt. It deals 3 to your opponent's head. And it can also just boost your creatures. It can save a creature, like regenerating a creature. It's kind of like a choice of deal 3 damage to a player or regenerate one of your creatures. Which what I think makes it better than Lightning Bolt. Although so few players actually play copies of Giant Growth that I'm sure I'm in the minority here, thinking that Giant Growth is better than Lightning Bolt. Giant Spider. This spawned like the whole Reach cycle, and green getting Reach. Since green has so few flyers, it's so important for mono green to have at least one Reach creature. So if the board gets clogged up, especially in limited, it's usually the one flying creature that just evades over the entire opponent's army and eventually just chips in every turn and gets there. Giant Spider stopped that. It's in the original, like back when all there was revised. People played with Giant Spider. Ley Druid. People still don't understand this is not a mana ability. You tap a forest, you tap Ley Druid, the untapped target land goes on the stack. If you have like 2 islands that are tapped, and you tap one Ley Druid to untap a target land, and your opponent Lightning Bolts a Ley Druid, you cannot just tap your second Ley Druid and untap both of your islands and counterspell a Lightning Bolt that way. It actually goes on the stack. I can't stress this how important this is enough. This is inferior to add 1 green mana to your mana pool if all you're playing is forests. Ley Druid is for cards like Maze of Ith, like powerful lands that would stop creatures from doing damage, or legendary lands. Ley Druid is powerful, and that's why it's 3 mana and not 1 mana like Landward Druids. Like Landward Elves, excuse me. Pure Lays. Blue Aces are terrible. Raging River. I've mentioned Raging River in my banning video. I do not understand the card. You separate creatures on 2 sides. Thankfully, it never made it to revise, so there's so few copies out there that players don't have to understand the card and don't have to actually read all that text, which is just too much. Sinkhole. Paid $20 each for my Sinkhole in the early 2000s. 2 mana land mana destruction is never going to be printed ever again. Magic the Gathering still has problems with 3 mana destruction. Called LD. Unbelievably good card. Sandra Everingham. The Hive. I've played with the Hive. It's not bad. Like I said, if all you have is revised cards, your flying creatures can chip in, especially if you're playing from same on green. This can cover up like a Giant Spider would or a Magic Carpet could. Next up, Dan Frazier. Dan Frazier. Animate Wall. Animate Wall, Berserk, Black Ward, Blue Ward, Cockatrice, Dingus Egg, Disrupting Scepter, Earth Elemental, Earthquake, oh my god, Fire Breathing, Force Field, Gloom, Grey Ogre, Green Ward, Healing Salve, Hail Giant, Ice Storm, Iron Star, Jizz Statue, Juggernaut, Mahamudi Gen, Mox, Orc Flame, Red Ward, Resurrection, Sacrifice, Edge Troll, on Sunglasses of Urza, 2 of the Swamps, Thicket Basilisk, Tunnel, Wall of Stone, and White Ward. Animate Wall. I love attacking with walls. I love Rolling Stone decks. I've cast Animate Wall when just to supplement 4 Rolling Stones on a Wall of Swords. It's a 3/5 flying for 4 mana, and Animate Wall. It's only 1 mana, but you get to attack with your 3/5 flying. That something like that would cost 5 mana, not 4. And you could attack a turn earlier. There's also Wall of Spears type cards with good attack stats, especially in red. They have like Blistering Barriers and like a 4/1 first strike wall I can't really think of, or a 3/1 first strike wall I can't think of the name. Anyway, Berserk. Berserk's been $28 to $53 for a very long time. Eventually picked up Berserk's like in early 2000s. I think in the 28 to 53 ends. Unlimited card. I'm actually glad it got reprinted. You can just do Giant Growth Berserk. Your opponent's dead on a 1/1 creature. This is basically the proto version of Infect. Black Ward. I've said things about wards. White Ward should never have been printed, because the original White Ward, you could rules lawyer and say, well, if you cast White Ward on a creature, it gains protection from white, and the ward has to fall off. The wards might have been a mistake. I didn't play with wards. I don't really see the point. It was hard enough just remembering what the 4 abilities of protection do. Cockatrice. I played with Cockatrice. Excellent deck design. The exact same power and toughness as Thicket Basilisk, but it also has flying. And what makes it balanced with Thicket Basilisk, if you cast a lure on it, it would destroy all of your opponent's creatures. If you cast a lure on Cockatrice, then only your opponent's creatures with flying could block it. So even though it has an extra keyword ability compared to Thicket Basilisk, Cockatrice is balanced. Excellent game design. Dingus Egg. Dingus sounds just like an insult. Like, you dingus. I've played Dingus Egg decks. Dingus Egg Armageddon in multiplayer is a thing. It's killed multiple players at once. Dingus Egg Armageddon. I played it for a week. Chaucer deck. It's just excellent fun and memories, just for like a week or two, and just toss it away forever, because it doesn't last as an archetype. It's not a winning deck. It's just a fun deck. Love Dingus Egg decks. Disrupting Scepter and Mono Black. There wasn't that much discard. You could use 4x Him to Turox, and maybe like 1x Mind Twist if it was restricted, and then some of the others, like Mind Warp from Ice Age, is black 3x. Look at your opponent's hand, discard X cards. Black 3x is terrible. Disrupting Scepter is actually an improved version of Mind Warp from Ice Age. So once you've thrown in the Coercions, the Stupors, the Him to Turox, all that's left is Disrupting Scepter. It's a one of and mono black discard decks. I wish decks like monocolored decks would search through the artifacts a bit more to improve their decks. I'll see a lot of monocolored green, like mono green elves decks, and just won't even look at any artifacts at all. And just like one artifact in the whole deck would improve it just a little bit. Players just don't do that anymore. They need to spend an extra 5 or 10 minutes. Earth Elemental, excellent card, good stats. 4/5 for 5 was excellent back in the days. Pairs with Fire Elemental. I've traded Earth Elemental with Fire Elemental before. There just weren't that many cards back then. Earthquake. Played Earthquake for years. It's excellent in like a white-red deck. You can combine life gain with dealing damage to everyone, and the life gain on white would counteract the damage in Earthquake. What's excellent is, unlike Pyroclasm, it deals damage to each player. I've killed players with Earthquake before. You can also double all damage with Furnace of Wrath and just do 8 to 10 damage to everyone. And if you're playing Grand Melee, I've killed like several players at once. Seriously. Fire Breathing. I've cast Fire Breathing on Goblin Snowman. It's not excellent. It's just hilarious. Oh, I put a Fire Breathing. It's a Fire Breathing Goblin Snowman. Boom, boom. How does the snowman breathe fire? I don't know. Force Field. I thought Force Field wouldn't make it in the Power 9. If there was like a reorganization, reconstitution of the Power 9, I was almost willing to put $100 on Force Field and Unlimited, because it would be stay at $100. It could maybe go up to like 120. I'd thought. And if you're playing a commander deck, Force Field's amazing. And on Magic Online, I can only imagine it's just like one ticket. Like, I don't see why players wouldn't at least consider Force Field for a second in commander decks these days, especially since there's many more copies of Force Field in Magic the Gathering Online than there are like unlimited copies of Force Field in real life, because it's so rare. And like I said, as part of the $100 plus club early in Magic the Gathering history, the boxes are $100 plus too. Gloom. My dad's played Gloom. White spells cost 3 more to cast. Like, you play this like a Black Knight deck and a White Knight deck used to fight each other, and Gloom made the Black Knights win against the White Knights, because he couldn't play any more White Knights anymore because he cost 5 mana. Grey Ogre is like... One second. Grey Ogre is the epitome. The people call them like bears. I'll play a bear. People also call these creatures ugly Grey Ogres. 3 mana creatures for 2/2. Maybe they make you like draw a card and pay a life, but it's still 3 mana for a 2/2, and people complain about them these days. Green Ward, do I know about Green Ward? Healing Salve was part of the cycle of cards with a number 3 on them for 1 mana. White, blue, black, red, green. Black got Dark Ritual for black. Blue is Ancestral Recall, draw 3. Black is gain 3 mana. Lightning Bolts 3, do 3 damage. Giant Growth +3/+3. Healing Salve is 3 life. It's the worst of the 5. If they redid the original 5, I've seen contests online that ask, how would you redo the 5 cards, the Healing Salve cycle? And there's tons of really excellent ideas, like, some of them is like, instead of draw 3, it'd be like draw 3, discard 3 for 1 blue. Excellent ideas, just revising the original 5. People hate Healing Salve because it's the worst of the 5. Hill Giant. This could have caught on, just a 3/3 for 4 mana like Grey Ogre did. It didn't. I could still use, it's a Hill Giant for my local group, but this doesn't work on the national level. Ice Storm. What? Oh, this card. Yeah, I never saw it revised. Destroy target land. Green isn't supposed to destroy lands, but green gets Thermokarst and Ice Storm, and you can actually do mono green land destruction with Ice Storm, Thermokarst, and Plow Under. Mono green, it's the wrong color. Totally. Iron Star. Players experimented with there's an entire cycle of these. Gain 1 life whenever you successfully cast a spell. Play it in Chandelar. It's not even good in Chandelar. And Chandelar just has like mostly 4th edition cards. Jade Statue. Never played it. Terrible wording. It's man artifact. Actually, a good way of balancing Indestructible was just making creatures like Jade Statues. Since Indestructible creatures were so powerful, like even a 5 mana 0/1 Indestructible seemed overpowered because it's like a 0/10 for 5 mana, which seems kind of overpowered. So people are like, hey, let's just make cards like Jade Statue. And that's how Indestructible got its mark in Magic the Gathering as a keyword. Were just effects like Jade Statue. Juggernaut. Actually, how I won my very first game. That I got the 1 pack revised. It was attacking with a Juggernaut versus a Wall of Swords, and Wall of Swords couldn't block. Can't be blocked by walls. Really easy to forget. Probably the first blunder I've ever seen. Fatty Modi. He actually gets a nickname. 5/6 flying. Players just loved him. You could just make a counterspell deck with just a bunch of just throw in like 20 counters into a blue deck, and just finish off your opponent with air elementals and Mana Mutagens. That's all you need. Like 4 to 8 creatures, all air elementals and Mana Mutagens. Genies. I don't know what I'm saying. Degen, I'm sorry. That's Degen as a kid. They're genies. The Mox Cycle. I'm really glad they made the same artist do all 5 Moxes. They're so pretty. Mono Artifact was the original wording. Mono just means you can just use it like once per turn, like either during your turn or during your opponent's turn, and then you would tap and then you wouldn't. Then they had Poly Artifacts, which were cards you could just activate over and over and over again, like a 1: or 2:, like a grenade launcher. Orcus Oriflamme originally was printed as 1 red, 1 colorless, and it got eroded to 1 red, 3 colorless, but in the original alpha version it got restricted because 2 mana for Orcus Oriflamme was too powerful. I played it, and then when Fallen Empires came out and they had cards like Goblin Caves that could enchant a land that would improve all your goblins, Orcus Oriflamme just got booted out and Goblin Caves became the new success. Red Ward. You know what I think about Red Ward? I think these arts are pretty, actually. The wards. Resurrection. I love the flavor. I really do. Same power level as clone, really. Like, you can resurrect a 5 or 6 mana creature and you just get mana advantage. Just love resurrection. Sacrifice was terrible when I first saw the card, and it's terrible now. They wanted it to be like an alternate Dark Ritual. I've never seen Sacrifice played. It stayed in my binder forever. Sedge Troll is far overpowered. It's like the first zoo card. Such value. It's like a 3/3 for 3 mana. So your Pearl Unicorns all go in the trash can. You don't need them anymore. And it regenerates. So you can... So this was part of the thing of, what if I can this red just like Curd Ape, what if I can throw in Splash Green for Curd Apes and Splash Black for Sedge Trolls? And this was Zoo just trying to find his feet, just trying to find like high value, high attack power, high defense power for mana costs. It actually included Sedge Troll. Unfortunately, it was just hard to get several Sedge Trolls together. Sunglasses of Urza, I've seen as a one-of, and red-white decks. People have done it. Just two-headed giant. I played against someone who played Sunglasses of Urza. It's great. It's like a chromatic lantern as long as your deck is your red-white deck. Otherwise, it's pretty terrible. Swamps. Thicket Basilisk. I've talked about it already. It's a cockatrice. Tunnel. This card's terrible. I think my brothers played Tunnel once in a deck, and then switched to Goblin Digging Team, like one of. This card's terrible and stayed in my binder forever. Wall of Stone. I adore Wall of Stone. Even though this is a 0, like the power toughness sum compared to the casting cost is enormous, and I wish Wizards of the Coast would print more asymmetrical power toughness cards. And it's sad that the whole wall cycle is gone. White Ward. I'm glad they actually printed this. This is not remove White Ward, because before it doesn't have this. 4th edition, they're like, this doesn't destroy White Ward. When you pulled a White Ward out of a pack, it is literally nothing. Literally nothing. Anyway, that's it. I'm going to take another sip. Friends, check out humblebundle.com. You get hundreds of dollars of games for just $12 a month. It goes in your Steam account, and it stays there forever. So, what I want you to do is I want you to join Humble Monthly with this code, YM2B9L, and support Wall of Ice Cream on his endeavors. And there will be more videos, I promise. We just need more than 0. Go for it. Do it.